Okay, good morning, everybody. I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Dutchess County IDA. And Jasmine, will you please take a roll call for attendance?
Tim Dean,
Here.
Mark Doyle,
Yeah.
Kathy Bauer. Here. Amy Bondieri, James Bacone, Don Sagliano, Al Torrigiano.
Here.
Okay, so the first thing to mention is we do have a conflict of interest policy. If anybody has a conflict with something on the agenda, I would appreciate it if you would let me know that you do and state what the conflict is.
I do. I have a conflict with Violet Estates. I do handle the relationship at my employer on a daily basis.
Okay, thank you, Kathy, and we will excuse you at that time. Anybody else? If there is one that becomes apparent during the meeting, please let us know and we'll recuse you. Sarah, we have a quorum at this time, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Proof of meeting notice?
Yes, it was posted 10/12.
Okay, any bills or communications?
No.
Approval of minutes. So we have minutes from the September 21st, 2022 meeting. Does anybody have any corrections or comments about those minutes? Okay, could I get a motion to approve them?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Mark. Could I get a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Kathy. Jasmine, would you please take a roll call vote to approve the minutes?
Tim Dean,
Approved.
Mark Doyle,
Approved.
Kathy Bauer,
Approved.
Al Torrigiano.
Approved.
Okay. Report of the treasurer.
Looking at the balance sheet, 2.5 million in cash. Looking at the P&L, we have revenue of 5.9 million, carving out the pilot payments. We have 203, a budget of 392,000 for an unfavorable variance of 188,000. Expenses are 6.3 million, again carving out that pilot payment that's not budgeted. The expenses are 595,000 to a budget of 650,000 for a favorable variance of 56,000. We have a net loss of 391,000 to a budgeted net loss of 259,000 for an unfavorable variance to budget of 133,000. So again, not much change from last month. The revenue is under budget.
Okay. Any concerns on your part at this time about that?
It's just the revenue is what it is.
Sure. Okay. Anybody have any questions? Okay. Next thing on the agenda is reports of committees for consideration and approval of the 2023 budget and submission to Paris. Kathy, would you like to handle that?
Yes, thank you. Okay, so for the year ending 2022, are you there? It should be right after
There is a
the
narrative
income.
after the,
Yeah, there you go. Okay,
Income statement.
all right.
Gotcha.
We estimate the income for administrative fees to be 611,000. That is from two projects, Arthur S. May and one Dutchess Phase 3. Potentially, the Canham Hudson Valley Logistics might close before the end of the year. And then what we are budgeting for administrative fees for 2023 is 375,000. That is based on the anticipation of two projects closing.
And just to make sure everybody understands, the year for our budget is?
2022, sorry,
Right, I'm saying the calendar year or?
calendar year.
Yes.
Yes, okay. So application fees, we are anticipating with the year end for this year of $2,000 and two application fees coming in for 2023, also for $2,000. So really no change there. Compliance fees are based on the projects that we have going on for year end 2022. We're looking at 16,000 and we are proposing for next year 18,000. Other fees, we're anticipating ending up with 14,000 for this year, and we are proposing for next year 44,000, and that's our local workforce compliance and reasonability studies. Interest, we are hoping to end the year with $10,000 in interest. And then for next year, we're being ultra conservative. We're looking at interest of $8,000. If We don't have to go into our fund balance and we have more interest, that's great, but we're anticipating that possibly going into our fund balance a little bit more next year. Any questions on the income from anybody? Okay, moving on to expenses. Our audit fees with RBT are going to be at 14,500 for the year, and for next year, slightly up at 15,000, and that's based on our contract with them. Dues, right now, we're going to end up a little under budget, 2,500, and we're looking at 4,000 for next year for dues, and that includes our cost of benefits program that we share with the LDC for NYS East, New York State Economic Development Corp. Insurance is going to be pretty stable across the board, 4,100 for the end of this year to 4,300 for budget for next year. Postage and miscellaneous, we're going to end up at 6,000 this year, and we're budgeting for 4,000 for next year. Professional services and contracts going to remain steady at 600,000 this year and next year. And that is our contracts with the LDC at 150,000, Dutchess Tourism at 425,000, and Hudson Valley Agriculture at 25,000. Professional services, we're ending up this year at 26,000. And then next year is going to be slightly higher at 58,000. And that includes our attorneys, our workforce compliance, reasonability studies, transcript services, and the video services that we now have to do. Rent will remain steady. That is our rent at our storage unit at 1,000. Supplies, we're going to keep at a budget of 1,000. And we're anticipating travel to go up a little bit, based on everything opening up finally to 2,500 for next year. And that includes the IDA Academy that we send the employees to. Any questions on expenses?
I have one.
Okay,
Well, it's related to the 44,000 budgeted for workforce compliance
yes.
fees, and I listened to your breakout of the professional services, and I didn't hear it in there. Is that because that increase has got to be matched somewhere along the line by expenses?
That would be in the reasonability studies with the workforce compliance.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, Sarah.
Amy just sent me a text.
Okay.
You're asking about the workforce compliance.
Compliance, yes.
The fee, where's
Fees
the
are up.
offset?
So it's in
The 44.
the 44, so that is on the professional fees, the 58. So you'll see at the bottom, the local workforce compliance is broken out to 34,000, and the reasonable study is
It's
10,000.
in the professional service
Oh,
contracts.
yeah, it's right
Yeah.
under here.
Okay,
Right,
gotcha.
so
That's, thank you.
Just-
34,000, it's the big piece, yeah.
Yeah.
You good, Mark?
100%.
Okay, just a quick comment, since it was mentioned, the insurance and bonds, it's possible that my firm Marshall & Stone provides those coverages to the IDA. I don't know for sure because I don't handle it, but I just wanted to mention that to people. Any other questions? Okay, do we need to vote on approving the budget?
Yes.
And the submission to Paris, is there a separate document about Paris, or are we just auding for it to be submitted?
Authorizing to be submitted. What will be submitted to Paris is the five-year
Project.
5-year report. So our Paris report looks like this.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And as usual, we don't know what's coming up. We use 2 projects as our sort of a standard, but every year can be very different. Any other questions on the budget? Okay, could I get a motion first to approve the budget?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Kathy.
I'll second.
Thank you, Al. Jasmine, could you please take the vote?
Mark Doyle,
Approved.
Kathy Bauer,
Approved.
Martha O'Donnell,
Approved.
Jim Dean.
Approved. All right, the next thing can I get approval from the board? Can I get a motion for the approval to submit the 5-year Paris budget to Paris?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Kathy.
I'll second again.
Thank you, Al.
Mark Doyle,
Approved.
Kathy Bauer,
Approved.
Al Surjani.
Approved. Okay. Thank you for that. Next thing on the agenda is, actually, we have two projects. Now, we need to wait for, is
So
Amy going to be here?
Amy is not going to be able to be here, so we won't have quorum for Reynolds Asset Management. They are online with us. And Adam, I actually spoke with Adam last night when I thought that we might be in danger of quorum, so he is aware of this. We will probably have to, due to timing, schedule a special meeting just for them as soon as possible. But at this morning, we do not have
So
quorum.
Adam, I apologize for our, I hope you understand, but we will work within a time frame that you need to make sure that we consider this. You can let Sarah know what your deadlines are as far as your process, and we will put something together.
No problem. We appreciate the time, and I will connect with Sarah.
Okay, again, our apologies.
Understood. Have a great day, everyone.
Yeah. Okay, so we can discuss the MHTC development,
Yeah,
correct?
and I just want to say for the record that Can-Am Hudson Valley Logistics
that's right.
we will be postponing that to a future meeting. We are still awaiting their seeker neg deck declaration.
We are postponing it at their
At
request.
their request, yes.
Okay, so MHTC, are they here in person? Or- Okay.
I can call them.
Good morning, folks.
Good
morning.
How are you?
Good morning.
Follow.
All right, so Sarah, I'm going to let you sort of summarize where we are. I think everybody's fairly familiar with that, but just to make sure.
Sure, so this morning we have MHTC, otherwise known as Eastdale Villages, as well as DASC Eastdale, who are coming here this morning for a approval to the amendment of the master agreement to allocate a portion of the benefits previously approved to MHTC to the new entity known as DASC Eastdale LLC.
Known as DASC.
DASC, we call it DASC affectionately.
So, and with us today are Joe Kirchhoff and Kathy Hickman. I think you mentioned that.
Yeah.
And again, just for refreshing all of our memories, we had previously approved a sum of money for these benefits with the understanding that the developer would come back to us to reassign portions of those as different parts of the project were built out. And so that's where we are at today. And it looks like Joe has a fancy picture.
Well, I just figured it would be, well, good morning.
Good morning.
Tell me when you're ready for me.
We're ready.
Okay, so you know what, we'll just go through this and then we'll talk. So, this is obviously Dutchess Turnpike, Route 44. This is the traffic light coming into the west, what we call the northwest side. This is Premier. This is our headquarters here. So DASC it will be sitting parallel to Route 44 right here. This lot has changed a little. This is going to be actually 3 users now at this point, just to give you kind of a layout. And this is what the building will look like. So you'll see that the vernacular is very similar, the siding, the darker colors. Along 44, this will have a really rich landscape package along 44. Again, we always constantly put that effort in to try to hide that automobile. And really, that kind of helps that whole town center feel. And this is actually the side that faces 44. So there'll be a lot of landscaping all through this. Park a share, because obviously, even though they're an ambulatory surgery center, they do have some visits for people, obviously, that need some extra time getting out of the car. This is the layout. This is a very substantial, we have been blessed to build several of the major OR centers and the ambulatory surgery centers, Dutchess County. This is a real setup. This is beautiful. It's got 5 ORs and you currently have two, which we'll get into in a little bit. So these are all prep and recovery beds all the way through here. Nice, big, large, comfortable waiting room, break rooms, and your whole central sterile core. And then they have their central sterilization room. So this is going to really help their business tremendously. So as Sarah had said, this would be an allocation of benefits previously conferred to from MHTC to DASC. It's a 12,167 square foot building. So the project will be, the majority of the ownership will be the doctors and administrators of DASC. MHTC will retain a small percentage of it. It kind of really fits in with the original plan of Eastdale, I would say. And as you know, we really kind of champion that owner, operator, user construct, which has, we have seen a lot of great benefits out of. So Kathy Hickman, Kathy's administrator, she runs the operation. And you want to say a few things?
Good morning. Thank you for having me. Basically, we're here obviously to talk to you about our growth and our needs. And we run a 2 operating room surgery center in Poughkeepsie in the town on the Davis Avenue near Raymond Vassar College. We've been there for 22 years. We really have outgrown our space. We're totally limited to what we can supply in terms of customer service and a good customer experience. 2 operating rooms just won't meet our needs anymore. So we've explored many options before we came to this conclusion of Eastdale, and nothing would work for us. Architecturally, it wouldn't work to expand Davis Avenue. Other areas we looked at in Poughkeepsie of buildings also didn't work for various reasons. So we had decided on Eastdale. It's going to provide some of the best customer service. So it's going to expand our ability to go to 5 operating rooms. We have surgeons that are waiting, patients that can't get in, patients that are leaving the community. They're trying to find areas to have ambulatory surgery that aren't here in Poughkeepsie. We want to retain that in Poughkeepsie. We want to keep our patients here. And we also have room for growth. We're going to have increased job opportunities. We just think overall, this project is just probably one of the best things that we're so excited about it. And the IDA board, the help that you can provide to us would be critical to making this project happen for us. So we're so grateful that you're here and even listening to me.
Just out of curiosity, what is the current employee count, FTE count at your organization?
Right now, we're at 30. That includes a few per diems, but basically 30.
And then any idea of possible growth in that count by moving there?
Yes, we think initially we're going to incrementally open our operating rooms so that we can start off on a slower mode and go over. We think we're going to increase about 6 to 7 to start when we open. That'll be about a 25% give or take growth on our original number. Then we know as we incrementally open operating room 4 and operating room 5, we'll need not only the nursing staff, but the support staff as well. So we think our target goal will be to hit a total of 20 by the time all is said and done over a few periods of years.
Joe, do you have any idea of, I mean, I don't know if you have the answer to this, but as to how many employees are working within all of the operations that are occupying space in your development at this point?
I actually don't have that number.
I mean, you don't
My
them, so.
my instinct is, and this is not a hard number, right? My instinct is there has to be well over 200 225 that are there every day. FTEs.
Yeah. And,
And that may actually end up being low, but guess what? I'd rather be a little low than too high, but
any idea how many patient visits Premier has?
they see about, I think, probably 300 to 400 a day.
Well, thank you.
I think certain days, Tim, are heavier depending on the doctor rotation. And I can tell just by the flux into the parking lot. There's typically 8 to 10 doctors on there every single day.
Anybody have any questions about this?
I just wanted to say that a public hearing was held on this last Thursday, and the board received the
Yes.
comments, transcript.
I just have minor understanding, medical understanding. So ambulatory surgery, meaning that you walk in and walk out.
That's correct. It's same day, everyone is
Those sort of
It's
categories.
actually a legal time limit they can stay there, right?
23 hours. You can go for, and our building will have a 23-hour stay room as well for people that have a longer surgery. We don't have that at Davis Avenue, so that's another reason for us to be able to want to grow, is to have that ability. Patients can do things like total hips, total knees, joints. We can't provide that service now. We can provide it at Eastdale because we'll have the space and the 23-hour room.
So it's pretty wide range of surgery.
Yes, we'll be adding surgeries that we know we don't do now because we don't have the room. So we're going to add services such as orthopedics, some neurology, cardiovascular is now coming into our arena. So again, we're limited. If we don't grow, we can't do any of that. So we are so grateful for this support if we can have that.
All right. So any other comments? Any other questions? All right. So I would entertain a motion for the approval of the final resolution for MHTC Development LLC and DASC Eastdale LLC to amend the master agreement and allocate a portion of the mortgage tax exemption and sales tax exemption previously granted to MHTC Development. We'll be granting that to DASC Eastdale LLC. Would I get a motion?
I'll make that motion.
I'd like to
Thank you,
second
Al.
it.
And Mark seconded. Jasmine, would you please take a roll call vote on this?
Dora? Marco, sorry.
Approved.
Kathy Bauer?
Approved.
Al Torriani?
Approved.
Jenny Daly?
Approved. Now that we've voted, allow me to once again compliment you, Joe, on the project that you've built out there. I think it really serves as a model. This is just my personal opinion, but speaking as the board chair as well, it serves as a model for why we're here. You came to us with a project, told us what was going to happen, and you delivered on that. And having been out there and seeing the vitality of it, seeing you on the premises.
Picking up paper, because that's like my full-time.
It's really great to see how that has become, what you call the walkable community. So my compliments to you to date on what you've done.
Thank you for the comments and thank you for the support. And, I spoke at the Think Dutchess Symposium a few weeks ago. And, I told the whole truth. Without this board, without IDA involvement, there is no way in the world that project could ever happen. It's especially now with COVID, with construction costs being so high, all these owner operators, they just couldn't afford to do it otherwise. So thank you very much.
I can agree with that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Best of luck for your.
Thank you.
And we look forward to seeing.
You're making this able for us to do it. Thank you so very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, while they pack up, we can move on to the next part of the agenda. Sarah, would you like to kick off a discussion about the local workforce utilization policy?
Sure. So we had received a request from one of the local trade groups about if the board would consider raising the cost differential on our waiver. So just as a reminder, our local workforce policy allows for waivers in 4 situations. One is it's a specialty type of work. One is a warranty situation, and the third one is if workers are not available to meet the workforce threshold. And the fourth one is if there's a cost differential of 10% or more. So this is related to the cost differential waiver. And so I'm just bringing this up for discussion for the board to see if this is something that they would like to consider or just keep.
Yes, and then we did talk about it briefly in another meeting, and we wanted to postpone. And one of the reasons is that we do know that one of our board members, Al Torjani, has background in this area, and we wanted to get his perspective on this issue. I don't know, Al, can you make any comments about, from your experience, the issues with this cost differential and how,
Well, I'd like to ask, do we have any data showing where that cost differential's been running? In other words, running 15%, 12%? In other words, they're over by 2, they're over by 3, or they're
So
over by 15?
they're over by 15. They're usually, I mean, I have that data and I'll compile it, but they're usually like significantly over, not
In other words,
just.
over the 10, 15, so it's 25?
So it's like, yes, so it's like close to 25, close to, I think the lowest one was 15% over,
Yeah,
so of the threshold.
so they'd still have to do their due diligence to get to the 20%, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Who else is using 20%? I know
So-
Orange is not a good example.
Yeah, so I put a chart together, on the back of the different counties and the cost differential. So Orange County does projects over 15 million, they do 20%, and projects under 15 million, they keep it at 10%. Rockland does 10%, but something that they have in their policy, which we do not have currently, is Rockland County gives the lowest bidder using local labor to revisit and try to match that quote at 10%.
so they require that when the bids come in,
Yep,
if they are over the thing, that the closest bidder for the contract, they have to go back to them.
back to them and see if they can match or be within that threshold with that. So that's what Rockland does. And then Ulster County does 25%.
Yeah, so 20 wouldn't be out of sight. But the question I have too is when they're putting together their bids, budgets and everything else, are they starting then? Because that's when I think that the waiver should be requested, not when you're 50% through the job and all of a sudden you're shopping and chopping and trying to make, additional funds out of it, going around. Are they then reaching outside of the area saying, oh, well, we got to buy here?
So you're saying prior to the start of the project?
Yeah, in other words, when we bid a project.
Yes.
Obviously, we have to have all subcontractors figured out who we're going to use, and we'll get multiples and all that stuff. And you'll see out of state, out of area contracts in the public sector, I'm talking.
Yes.
So even in the private sector, when we're bidding to private companies, then they get the project, then they start their buyouts, you would say. Now, are they working from day one with local? You know what I'm saying? Or are they starting when they're putting together their budgets or their buyouts? Are they already outside of the area? In other words, in the beginning, that's when the
Yes.
waivers should come, when they're doing their original buyouts, because a lot of these waivers are showing up halfway through the project.
Yeah, I would say for majority of the project, so where we're seeing, to be transparent, is where we're really seeing the cost differential is in the distribution projects. The other projects like the mixed use, like Eastdale, those other projects, including Belfield, we're not seeing a lot of use of waivers doing cost differential. It's really with the distribution
Is
projects.
that the type of construction that they're steel, metal? What's the reason for that, I wonder?
No, some of them, I spoke to BDL on the one in
Arthur May.
Arthur May. And, and I know it's true, so I'm glad he called me. So there's he has a problem with masons, okay? And that's when I told her, I said, that's impossible. There's plenty of masons. But he showed me the product that they're using. It's like a board with the lick 'em and stick 'em, we call them, little pieces.
Yeah.
And masons hate that. The masonry trade does not even like address that. That's why he was having such a hard time. And we gave him a name of a local guy, and he says, yeah, we had a number from him, but it was too high.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if they negotiated it or not, but I told Sarah, I said, that one I agree with, because I know, because we have the same problem. You know, sometimes we use carpenters to do it. I mean, that's how bad it is. Mason's like, eh. So, but when they get I'm thinking that could have been known long time ago.
Right. So what you're saying is that oftentimes they start the project with maybe perhaps some more expensive labor in the beginning.
Exactly, yes.
To meet the requirements, but then as they get toward the end or even in the middle, if they're exceeding their budgets, that's when they start to try and bring in cheaper.
Or they start, like, we'll start with like site work and work our way.
Oh,
through,
I see.
Scoping them out, making sure, and then seeing if you can buy them down a little bit, which is pretty typical. You know, so if they make 6% on a $40 million job on buyout, you know, but are they starting outside, seeing that, or are they shopping outside after and then go, wow, we got a hit here?
So Sarah,
I've seen that.
yeah, just a comment, you know, the local workforce requirement at 80%, talk about how that fits into this whole thing.
So, you know, they are required to use local workforce, 80% of the local workforce hours has to be done by people who live within our workforce labor shed.
And we define that.
And we define that, it's a 9-county, it's really quite large compared to some of our other counties. So it's a 9-county area. Projects that are, where the waiver is approved, that part of the project or what the waiver is approved for, the work is taken out of that 80%
Okay.
percentage.
Right.
So it's not only the cost, it's the local workforce requirement.
Yes.
Do people approach us not about cost, but only about the local labor issue?
About whether they were.
In other words, they can't, the cost is okay, but they can't meet the local labor.
Yes, so we did have one project, where we have two projects actually, where local labor was not available, and we had letters submitted by the local trade saying that they could not meet the local based on.
All right, so Sarah, do you have any comment or suggestion based on your discussions with other, IDAs in the area, even in the state? Do you have any clear recommendation that you would make based on that to us? As far as, do we want to consider changing this? Do we want to leave it where it is? What do you think?
I mean, my current, while I don't know if I would do 20% across the board, something that Orange County did seems reasonable. I do like Rockland's policy of that, presenting that bid that does, the highest bid without, or the lowest bid without local labor, bring it to the highest bidder with.
It seems like that would be very hard for us to police. That's my only concern with that. These are not always like what I would call formal bid processes, public entities have very formal process, but some of these projects are not.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you think that would be something that we could really? I don't know.
And I mean, I don't know, to be honest. I've had several conversations with Rockland County. They just enacted, this year is when they put in a local workforce policy. They haven't had a project yet where they've had to do this. They, before they had a prevailing wage policy, they've done away with the prevailing wage policy and have created this local
I
labor
guess
bill.
one thing we could probably guess is if we, or I shouldn't say, but if we put that provision in place and the contractor knows it, that it may stop it from coming to us because they may just do it on their own because they know they're gonna have to. In other words, they get a
Yeah.
bunch of bids and they say, oh, we're gonna have to go apply for this waiver. And we're gonna have to show them that we went back to this person, they just do it
Yeah.
and try and hammer it out. I mean, I don't know. But I guess the question is 10% the right number for all projects? Or should it be higher?
Yeah.
I think it should be raised, but how did Amazon do?
So Amazon, they have asked for, I don't have it now, but their waivers have not been about the 10%, actually. It has been about, most of their waivers have been about warranty issues, specialty construction, and then actually they did, one of their waivers is on the local labor not being available.
And they got the sign-offs.
Yeah, they got
That's
sign offs from
specific trade.
specific trade, the electric trades said that they didn't have the sign off. So we got a letter from them saying that they wouldn't have that. So there's Amazon, we don't have, while the Amazon does have a couple regarding the 10%, more, they're really not the 10%.
So,
They've been working, Tim, with the trades and they've been giving back money. Like the carpenters have what they call pinpoint money.
yeah.
Which they'll drop the rate $25 an hour, which puts them below the non-union rate. So sometimes they get really antsy
I
real quick.
right, so.
And then so do other trades, the iron workers are doing it. I mean, Matt always tries to just get as close as he can. He lost that one, what was he, 12%?
Yeah.
I don't know.
So I guess my question about that is if we raise it to 20%, we are potentially increasing the cost by 10%. If it's working out right now that the 10% works. So I don't know, but, do we want, what's the logic for the requirement being higher on larger projects than smaller projects?
That I'm not sure because
Why
why they
I
did
don't
that.
see
I mean, other than,
Attracting larger projects.
Yeah, attracting larger projects. That I'm not sure, and I spoke with the executive director at Orange County, he's not sure either because it was done under previous management.
Yeah.
So, and they've had some changes, leadership changes as well as some management changes there. So some of these policies and how they are monitoring it aren't, they're still working that out.
I'd say on that note that, we're better off as a sort of general mission to attract smaller businesses because they give us the diversity in the county that we're really looking for. Overall, the stability is going to be much greater than some of these big things.
Now, are some of these costs COVID related because the price has gone up for the last couple of years and we think maybe they'll go back down again?
well, I think.
Or,
yeah.
I mean, it's
Materials costs have,
definitely risen.
yeah, labor, there's obviously labor shortages, but don't know how to answer that.
Yeah, I mean, I will say that I do believe that 25% is too high.
No, yeah.
A number. I can, if the board, I'm hearing some questions, I can do some more research on the impact of this, looking at, like, for example, going back through the records and seeing what that
That delta normally is.
that delta normally is.
I mean, if
And
we-
also when they apply, because I think Al's point is
Right,
really.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
then
accurate.
when they do come in from wherever, are they staying over in the hotels? Are we getting some tax benefits that way? Or are they just driving in for the day and then driving back to wherever they live? I mean, it'd be interesting if Dutchess Tourism has any type of data on something like that they could share.
I can ask. I do
would
know that
guess
they,
it's probably Connecticut, New Jersey.
So they're within a
Pennsylvania,
day's
Steel was
drive.
Connecticut, wasn't it?
Steel was Connecticut.
But see, to lose that by 2%, that's to give out that much work to a Connecticut firm, we've purchased from Connecticut and installed it with
Yeah.
the local guys. But that's heartbreaking to the local community. You explain, 2%, there's no leeway in there. Like you can't go, well, I can't give it to you because it's 2%, because that's the position you got put in. And, they didn't get enough opportunity to go, but.
But if this asterisk thing here, if it had been, go back to them and give them a last chance, well, would you say that then we would need to see a letter from the contractor saying they were unable to meet the pricing?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Would that have solved that problem? Or would it have still been, no, we just can't meet that number?
I don't know. Yeah. I mean, getting them, I thought 15% would be the number.
So, okay, well.
'Cause I don't think we put it on anything under 10 million anyway, right? Or do we?
Yes,
Oh, that's right.
we don't put projects under 10 million,
We're
so,
not,
so we would have to change that number as well for us to see what.
Yeah, we just have to be 10 million and above.
Yeah.
All right, so I think we got a few more things to look at. It sounds like, I hear some consensus building, so I think we may look at doing something. Do you want to reach out to any of the trades and ask them about what their experience is?
Yeah, I mean, I've actually had extensive conversations with one of the trades where this is where their concern is about this.
Yes.
The other trades, I will say, they're not quite as concerned as.
Because they have all that funds that they can drop their numbers for their employees.
So yeah, there's obviously prevailing rates, but as Al said, they all have some.
Private, yeah. They got market recovery,
Unions
all
to,
that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
For only private work, prevailing rate is prevailing rate.
Yeah. So, but I can,
Okay.
based on the questions Al, I can find out
Yeah.
those questions to bring it for a future meeting.
okay. All right. Thank you for that discussion. We'll get back to the agenda. For discussion of open meeting policy and consideration approval of resolution authorizing a public hearing on the use of video conferencing for public meetings. Sarah?
So I'm gonna actually defer this to Liz.
Okay.
But this is related to the governor, over COVID, the boards were able to meet via virtual and those emergency declarations allowed the board to meet virtually or hybrid. The governor has no longer continued, that emergency order has ended, but has allowed boards to expand their participation by video. But there are certain conditions that we have to meet.
Or it's like you were mentioning, the quorum.
Right, yeah, and so we
Still
had
has to
talked
be-
about this earlier this summer, but at that point, the state of emergency was still in place and we could meet virtually. The boards, if they want to allow for board members to participate by video conference, they have to hold a public hearing on the issue and then adopt a policy. And so it would be under certain circumstances that the board members, considered an extraordinary circumstance, and it's up to the board to define what that is. And so we had discussed at that meeting over the summer what some potential circumstances might be. And so those are outlined in the Exhibit A, just disability, illness, caregiving responsibilities, any significant or unexpected factors, or.
This is on an individual basis.
Right, on an individual basis, but the one thing to keep in mind is that if the board member is going to be participating by video, they're not counted toward quorum. There still has to be quorum in person. So the circumstance where this would come up is there's quorum in person, but one person wants to still be able to participate and vote.
Well, like Jamie today.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But his vote would not really count,
No, it would count,
as long as we have quorum.
as long as there's quorum
Here, right.
So I'm saying.
But his
you really
video,
don't
his
need
virtual
this vote.
presence couldn't be used to establish the quorum.
Got it.
And it has to be visible the entire time, have to be visible.
Person has to be.
The person
On the screen.
who's attending remotely has to be visible.
Got it. Okay.
I had, just reading public comments and so on. I know it's a completely different situation, but while we're discussing video conferencing, the ability for the public to join public hearings with a video conferencing, I suppose that's also would require a state directive in that regard as well.
Part of the issue with the public hearings is that the law requires that they be held in the taxing jurisdiction that's affected. So if there's a Town of Hyde Park project, it's held at the Town of Hyde Park Town Hall. If it's LaGrange, it's held over in LaGrange. And so what that would require is having someone come to the public hearing and arrange for a Zoom conference and working with, for each project, working with the local place where the public hearing is going to be held to have that virtual setup. And it just makes it logistically more of a hurdle and more of an expense,
Right.
having that available for every public hearing that's held. The ones that are held here, the setup is here already, but that's only for.
But we'd actually have to go still to the municipal areas.
Yeah, yeah, like for example, we held a public hearing in Millbrook, and Millbrook did not have the capacity to allow a live stream or Zoom conference. So we wouldn't have been able to do that in Millbrook. And then we've encountered where we've tried to hold it because of security issues, because we have to have access to their Wi-Fi, and they have a strict policy that they can allow outside parties access to their Wi-Fi. So that's why it's a little, the law says where it's practicable. But in those cases, it's not practicable.
At this point, but if there were technology that allowed one to isolate the access to the, the Zoom conference by zip code or whatever.
It's entirely
Then you could do that.
predictable that in 10 years, no one's going to be sitting at these meetings. It's
Yeah.
all going to be virtual.
Right. So anyway, I just thought it's a valuable discussion because people have been commenting how hard it is to join. But,
And the other
That's what it
thing
is.
that they've commented on is the hour at which it's held.
well, that too. Yeah.
But, and I do understand that, the challenge is also is all of the professionals that are involved with other parties and, court recorders, all those things, they generally are available 8 to 5, so.
And the locations too.
Right.
Right. We have to have it in the town.
Right, they're not normally open, so it is understandable that some people would like to have it after hours, but I do think that allowing for written comments does help to ease that burden, because we do read those, I know that we read those comments. So,
Perhaps more effectively than listening to them.
yes. Okay, any other questions or comments about this?
So one of the extraordinary circumstances, what I'm thinking just myself, if I was I was normally going to be here, but unexpectedly unable to, is staffing issues at my office. Would that be considered an extraordinary circumstance? And it's usually something that I don't find out until like 7 o'clock in the morning, where I'm not going to have enough staff to open the branch.
So it says at the discretion of the chairman, and so there is some latitude there. And again, I think the most important part is we have to have a quorum in person. So your participation, and you could vote, it would not, it would not interfere with the present people being able to make a decision. If for some reason you couldn't fully participate, so I think, in my opinion, obviously, once in a while, I would think that would be an extraordinary situation.
Yeah, we leave that final one as a catch-all provision. and leave
Okay.
it to
Yeah, if-
chairman's
if-
discretion to.
If that was happening every meeting, it'd be another.
Oh, yeah.
It's significant or unexpected.
Yeah, okay.
So if you judge it to be significant and the chairman agrees, that's fine. If it's unexpected, and the chairman agrees, that's fine.
Okay, so if there are no other questions, I would entertain a motion to approve this policy.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Mark. Could I get a second?
I'll give it a second.
Thank you, Al. Jasmine, would you please take a vote?
Mark Doyle,
Approved.
Kathy Bauer,
Approved.
Al Torjani,
Approved.
Cindy.
Approved. Okay,
So this, just to be clear, this will go to a public hearing and then there'll be a resolution for
I'm sorry,
actually
yes, so
adopting
this
the
was
policy.
yes. Okay, is there anything else for this meeting, Sarah?
It's one last item, and that is the Business Excellence Awards is occurring next Thursday, October 27th. The IDA typically buys a table at the event. This year is slightly different. We're holding it at the Culinary Institute instead of the Grandview. So I just wanted to know if the board would still be interested in purchasing a table for the BEAs.
I'm sorry,
Okay.
you would like to know if we would like to sit at the table or? if
Oh,
we would
no,
like to
so
purchase?
typically, the IDA purchases a table for the board to attend.
Okay.
Okay.
And we haven't done that in the past 2 years because it's been virtual. But I would like to know if the board would like to continue that practice of purchasing a table for the IDA members.
When is that one again?
It's Thursday, October 27th at 6 PM at the Culinary Institute.
So I will be in attendance right now. I'm sitting at our table as a sponsor, but, certainly I could make that seat available and sit at this table if we did so.
I was planning on attending also. I was just waiting to see if my company, what sponsorship level they were doing as to how I was getting tickets. Yeah.
Would there be staff that would also like to come, Sarah?
So, so the table often covers the cost of the staff attending as well as, coupling, and all special guests as well.
Yeah,
So
that's
I
fine.
don't think we need a vote on this, do you?
It's in the budget.
It's in the budget.
Yeah, it's
It's in the budget.
$7,000 item, yeah.
Within your purview to do that, and, it sounds like it'd be a good idea.
It might be under budget.
All right, so with that, I'm going to adjourn the IDA meeting.